Do you want to give an intro to David and Kara at all, or we think we do that in the pod?
I think we do that in the pod itself.
Okay.
Just 3 minutes. We then chat anyway with Kara and David.
Do we need a tagline?
I am, as usual, well prepared here. So welcome to the Below the Surface podcast, the podcast that connects knowledge and entertainment.
That's the goal.
Sweet spot yet again.
That's the dream, Gunnar. We're trying to live the dream.
Knowledge and entertainment takes me straight into our housekeeping because I've been pulled up by a listener.
Very good.
James Walker is his name, and he's started to listen to all the episodes. And at episode 3, I threw out a comment that there was no data supporting the fact that mobile phone use during driving causes accidents. I had actually, in my defense, I had prepared for that, and I had done a fair bit of research on that, and I had Googled around and I had AI'd around. I obviously had the wrong search terms there because James sent over an article with lots and lots of references. And yes, there has been quite a fair bit of research done. And yes, it's been well established that mobile phone use distracts people, which is a no-brainer. And then as a result of that, the mobile phone usage would cause more accidents. What I was initially referring to was actually, hey, can we pinpoint this accident was caused by mobile phone use? But that is, of course, a poor way of looking at it, because even with smoking, you can never say that lung cancer was caused by smoking.
There's lots of factors.
So James, thank you. James Walker, thank you for pointing that out. I have changed the show notes on that episode 3, and I will research even better before I make any snipey comments.
We're happy to be corrected on anything we say. I think that's, we speak pretty freely on here, and that's part of the vibe of this podcast is that, we do come to these, we are informed about the things that we talk about, but look, nobody's perfect. Like, we are going to make mistakes. Like, I've, accepted a correction that I received from the EPA about some comments that I made. Like, we're more than happy to make corrections in what we say. That's all part of the learning experience as far as I'm concerned. And
as I said, I mean, I didn't just make that comment because
no, of course,
researched it, but poorly, obviously. So there you go. Pull us up on if we're wrong.
Yeah, please do, and love the engagement.
This is an intro to a podcast that we have already recorded, and I need to explain a few things. So we, as environmental, especially the contaminated sites consultants, we take a lot of samples, be it soil samples, water samples, air samples, dust samples, whatever we take. We take them to laboratories and they analyze, and then whatever comes back, we try to interpret. And there's a bunch of laboratories here in Sydney that are very prevalent in the environmental industry. David Springer, who is on this episode here, is from EnviroLab, a laboratory here in Chatswood. Another big one is ALS, Australian Laboratory Services, which is a huge worldwide operation, by the way. If you go to their website, it's a very impressive outlet. When I talk to David, who is EnviroLab, and I talk to him about ALS and EnviroLab are fierce competitors in our industry.
The Montagues and the Capulets.
That's right. That's it. So for those who don't know, otherwise you have no idea what I'm throwing out here at David. That's basically it. The rest of it is easy, and it will come as you go, and everybody will understand. I'm quite excited about this one. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to those.
Yeah, really nice bit of novel research being done.
It is. So enjoy the podcast, and there it goes. So, sorry, I just ran home. I was in a meeting, and
I was going to say, Gunnar, you puffed out. Did you literally run home?
I did.
Oh wow!
I don't know if you can see it, but I'm all sweaty.
Yeah. Do you need to have a little drink and compose yourself?
I'm fine. I'm okay.
That's good.
I hope I won't have too much heavy breathing in my recording here.
It's not one of those podcasts.
No. So I by the way, did you get an invite to the ALS Christmas party, David?
No, surprisingly, I didn't get an invite to that.
Huh.
But you know what, Gunnar? I reckon that if you were challenging me, I reckon I could actually get into the ALS party, because depends who's going to be manning the door. If you have a look, there was a recent ALS LinkedIn post.
Uh-huh.
It was from the cleanup conference in Adelaide. It was on the ALS LinkedIn, and there am I standing with the whole ALS BD team. So their marketing people obviously didn't know who I was. So if I just rock up to the ALS party with that LinkedIn post with the ALS logo, I'm sure they're going to go, "Oh yeah, you're that new BD dream team member. Come on in."
This is going to be interesting because when you walk in there, the rest of the industry will get confused.
Maybe I can have a shave and a haircut, and no one will know.
No, just hand out your business cards.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll do. Yeah.
I did want to say congratulations on the 20th anniversary, David. I saw that your Christmas party is, you've hit that milestone. I didn't actually realize. Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it should be a good party. We thought so we'll be turning 20 in February.
Yeah, unreal.
We're going to combine this customer party in December with our 20th anniversary, which is a long time.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Exactly. I didn't have grey hair back then. I was probably 30 kilos lighter, slept better.
a kilo a year.
Exactly right.
The joys of running a business, but it's all worth it, I guess.
That's it, of course.
No, that'll be great, mate. I'll definitely get along to that one. So
yeah.
Thanks for the invite.
Did you get your invite, Gunnar?
I did. After last year, I was left out, if I may add so.
That was probably not enough work coming into Envirolab. You slipped off the list.
It's all about money now, is it? Okay.
Depends.
Cara.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask you how old you are? Are you even 20?
I'm 23.
Oh, well, so you're older than Envirolab.
Yes.
Yes. Just.
David, you and I, we go back a long time.
We go back a long time. I actually probably go back further with your wife than you.
Please clarify that.
I worked with Louise, Gunnar's wife, probably over 30 years ago. That would have been at Amdel in Asquith. We worked together.
Yes.
What's Amdel?
Amdel was a laboratory all those years ago, gobbled up by various other entities now. But back then it was pretty much SGS, ALS, and Amdel were the three dominant labs. Yeah. So Gunnar would have been our customer. You were probably with the State Rail Authority or something.
I was back then. I was. Yes.
Terminal. I still call it the RTA. I had to go up to the RTA the other day.
Well, public service, they change their name every 2 years because right. But yes, yes. God, yeah, lots of names come back. You worked with Bill Straff, right? And
Bill Straff,
yeah, Straff. John Leader.
John Leader was in the Melbourne lab when I was in the Sydney lab. Yep.
Yeah.
All those old names. Jeff Anderson.
Oh my God, yes. Anyway, so the reason for this interview is that you and I caught up accidentally in Adelaide at the Chlorinated Hydrocarbon Conference a while ago. And you stood up in between talks and asked a very interesting question. You stood up and you held in your hand one of those recyclable paper plates.
Yes.
with nice leaves imprinted on it, and it had some eco-friendly name. And he says, "Can I just see a show of hands of these? I don't know, 200 delegates? 200?
I think I did a rough count." And yes, I basically just hijacked the seminar and said, show of hands, who in this room, the whole room being environmental consultants, who would recycle this sugarcane plate?
Not only recycle, but also mulch it.
Mulch it, yes. And put into the compost bins, which were all around the uni in Adelaide. And pretty much 50% of that room. So half of those environmental consultants, including myself, put my hand up. We all would compost or mulch these sugarcane plates.
And the others were too chicken to say anything.
Probably.
They thought it was a trick question.
Or probably thought, who the hell's this guy standing up in the middle of the conference waving around a paper plate?
Yeah. So why did you ask?
Well, very interesting because Cara was at the time a Macquarie University student, and she was doing this fantastic composting experiment with us on sugarcane plates. And my impromptu survey in Adelaide was to help out Cara on what professionals thought about composting sugarcane plates.
All right. So we hand over to Cara. Cara, how did all that start?
Sorry, can I just say hello? Hi, Cara. We haven't met before.
Hi.
Gunnar, you and Cara have met before, have you?
Yes, we have. Yes, we
Oh,
have.
awesome.
Funnily, Cara, when she was just a young girl, did live behind me. So we were neighbours, and I was in the volunteer fire brigade with Cara's father as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us what happened. How did this all come about?
So I did science and commerce. So this was for one of my science subjects.
Okay. And did you come up with that idea, or was that idea proposed to you?
So I came to David asking for a project, and this was David's idea that he was actually going to do himself, but it got passed on to me instead.
Fantastic. Okay. And you ran that past your, I don't know, academic advisor or whatever they are called these days, and he was all in.
Yeah. It needs to get approved first. So it got approved and then it went forward. Yeah, so what I did is I actually composted these plates down to basically investigate whether or not they would leach out any PFAS compounds after composting them. We had 2 compost tumblers. They're about 180 litres. And we prepared them with some compost starter materials. And we composted the plates. And it's also important to mention that one of the tumblers, we treated it chemically with potassium persulfate. So we'd spray that weekly. Your hands are going, "Ooh, what's that?"
I'm like, whoa, potassium what and why?
Yeah. So I'll jump in now. So potassium persulfate. So my theory was that, yes, these plates can be industrially composted, but we don't know what other chemicals might be in an industrial compost process. So what I wanted to do was simulate a TOPA analysis on these plates. So we came up with Cara just spraying a bit of sulfate into one of the compost bins weekly, just to simulate a few other chemicals that could go into a composting process.
TOPA stands for?
Total Oxidizable Precursor Assay. Most labs are testing for around about 28 to about 33 PFAS analytes, but out there's estimates between 5 and 15,000 PFAS out there. So by doing a TOPA, what we do is we run a sample for a PFAS analysis, and then we'll oxidize that sample. So we'll add something like persulfate to it, and we'll heat it up about 85 degrees for a while. And that's releasing all of the unknown PFAS that we can't normally see. And it's transferring those into those 28 analytes that we can see. So it's basically looking for any hidden PFAS in a sample. And that's what we were trying to simulate with this experiment.
Okay, good.
This TOPA thought came about because, labs have been offering TOPA PFAS for a while, but a lot of environmental consultants sort of say, well, why would I do a TOPA on my sample? In nature, your sample is not going to be oxidized at 85 degrees for an hour. Why would I bother doing that? So I was actually talking to someone at a interstate wastewater treatment plant, and we were talking about this, and he actually said, well, you know what? Our piles of biosolids sitting out there could easily reach 85 degrees, and we don't know what chemicals are in there from the sewage work. So it's not out of the question that a pile of biosolids could actually do a TOPA.
Yeah, I agree, David. I mean, with my experience with composting facilities,
Yep.
part of the pasteurization process is it's not quite up to 85 degrees, but yeah, it's definitely conceivable that in those processes they could be reaching that sort of a temperature for that period of time, for sure.
That's what this guy thought as well.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think particularly when it comes to recycled organic products, definitely.
Mm.
And when you mentioned biosolids, that's the industry, the nice name for poo, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
We also do a lot of testing on biosolids, which also has a lot of PFAS in it. But I could talk about that after Cara.
No, you won't. No, you
won't.
won't. No, you won't. Well, maybe, yeah. Please. Okay, Cara, keep going.
Yes, so the other tumbler we just left normal. So just organic home composting conditions. We didn't add any kind of chemical to it. So basically what we did is we left it for 7 weeks, tumbling it every couple days we tumble it.
Did you put plates only in there or with something, with a little bit of soil or branches?
It was prepared with a bunch of composting materials, which we obviously tested for PFAS to get the initial background concentrations. So then we can compare those levels to the levels we found after composting the plates.
Okay.
So yeah, there were no PFAS that we could see initially in the compost starter materials. After 7 weeks, we noticed there were signs of decomposition of the plates, and we actually tested the soil, and it was quite positive with PFAS compounds, particularly PFCAs. And I think the chemically treated one was a lot higher.
Yeah, it was. So our untreated one, so just like a home compost bin, that had about 8 ppb total PFAS. And then once we did a TOPA on it, that was up to about 50 ppb. So,
ppb, parts per billion, a measure for concentrations.
Yep.
And these are soil levels that you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly, in the compost. But then interestingly, Cara was mentioning how she was spraying persulfate onto the other one. So think of the untreated one with the TOPA, we got up to 50 parts per billion. With the persulfate one, we actually got up to 200 parts per billion. So that sort of showed that, us adding this oxidant to the compost bin, which could happen in an industrial setting, was actually releasing more PFAS. So that was quite interesting.
Mm.
And we're talking which PFAS, total PFAS of it all, or are we talking?
Yeah, so this was total PFAS. And if we break it down into the individual PFAS compounds, these were not the regulated compounds. We did find a little bit of PFOA in there, but it was mainly things like PFBA and PFHXA. So those, part of that list the lab gives you, and they're always non-detect because you're only looking at your PFOS and PFOA. We found these odd ones. But interestingly, so the sugarcane plates that we were using, the one we found the most suitable was like, think of those clamshell plates you might buy a hamburger in. It's got the lid on it.
Yep.
So that's we initially tested that plate for PFAS, and that had 50,000 parts per billion. That's the one, Gunnar, in your hand. Yep.
Yeah. Guess what? I got that from you.
Exactly. And you'll tell, Gunnar, you can rub your hand on the inside of that plate, and you'll notice there's a coating. So that's obviously there to stop the fat and the liquid from that food from seeping through and getting on your fingers.
50,000 parts per billion.
50,000 parts per billion, which is 50 parts per million.
Well, that's now busting. Again, we only have a few of them regulated in Australia.
Yep.
Did you compare them to the P4 and the other two that you need to add up?
Yeah, so we had a look in the compost, obviously, once it was done, and certainly went above that guideline. What are we looking at in the actual compost? Once it was broken down, we were looking at, this at week 7, we're looking at 8 parts per billion. So the guideline, we're looking at what the HIL guideline at about 10 ppb.
Yeah.
But certainly we carried the experiment on a bit after that. So like week 15, we got up to 13 ppb. So it definitely was coming out. But more interestingly was that these products say on their website that they're not suitable for home or industrial composting.
Yeah.
And that's because if you delve deep onto their website, it actually says they're made of, so their raw material is plant fibre with PFAS. Clear as day on their website.
Yeah.
Bizarre, isn't it? I was just going to say as well. Sorry, when we're talking about guideline limits, like I'm far from an expert in this area, but the NEMP is about to be revised, isn't it? The new NEMP, National Environmental
Management Plan for PFAS.
Yeah, it's being revised and released next year, I think. And my understanding is that those guideline levels are coming down. When you consider that, like your results are well over, even at the 7-week mark.
That's right. It's going to be a bit of an issue. So we recently did some commercial chook manure that you just buy from the hardware shop for your veggie garden. So in that chook manure, we did find it's PFH XS, one of the compounds in the guideline, was coming out at 80 parts per billion. So this was a Queensland manufacturer, and I think the Queensland guidelines are something like 2 parts per billion. So we're looking at a huge level over that, and this is a product that is still on the market. So it is a bit of a problem.
Well, see, I'm far from getting into another rant of mine. But when I read the guidelines on how I am supposed to sample for PFAS when I go out in the field, in particular when we're talking water, and I read that you're not supposed to wear any high-vis equipment because they are full of PFAS. You're not supposed to wear sunscreen. You're not supposed to have any deodorant on. Good luck with that one. You're not supposed to, makeup. I'm okay with that. But there are so many things. I must not have eaten in the last half hour or whatever it is. I must not have washed my hands with any soap that is not particularly specifically allowed. Yep. There are so many things when I go out and sample for it where I'm thinking, maybe before I sample for a couple of parts per trillion, can we take this stuff out of my deodorant, please?
Yeah, exactly. So yes, those sampling rules are very onerous. So when we talk to people about sampling, obviously we do recommend you follow those guidelines because they are the rules. But a lot of those are Western Australian rules that industry has just adopted. I probably about 5 years ago, because I lie in bed at night thinking about these crazy projects to do. So I actually got a Year 12 schoolboy who was doing his HSC chemistry. His project was to debunk that Western Australian guideline.
I want to read that.
Yes, he got a really good mark, of course, as did Cara for her. So yes, kids out there listening, if you need a good mark, just come and talk to me.
Our podcast is not that popular amongst young people, I must say.
I'm sure it's not.
The TikTok million followers are not there yet.
No, that's it. But this student, he debunked that guideline. So for environmental consultants, not to use ice bricks, those blue ice bricks. We drilled into many ice bricks. We tested the plastic and the gel inside, all PFAS free. You can't use decon. We've tested that; it's PFAS free. You're not meant to use Post-it notes, 3M Post-it notes. Well, I spoke to a 3M chemist from Minnesota, and I told him about this Western Australian guideline, and he just burst into laughter, saying there is no PFAS in our Post-it notes. And sure enough, we tested it, and it was fine.
Well, look, I can understand because I know where this comes from, because at some stage you're going to buy a sticky note, and it's 3M is just the name, right? But you go to to Kohl's and pick a couple of them up, and who knows? And I have no major problem with the sampling guidelines, because ultimately I am not supposed to contaminate my own sample. That is just it's just bad form, all right, as a consultant. But if it is close to impossible for me to not contaminate my water sample, it is when you're talking 4 parts per trillion, that is very, very low. A part per trillion, roughly 500 grams of 500 sugar cubes in Sydney Harbor. That's about, I have no problem. Yes, don't contaminate your sample. It's hard. It's really hard as a consultant to sample for PFAS in water. And I don't even want to know how many positives we have because of sampling accidents. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it could be. And now the new NHMRC draft guidelines came out last week.
Yeah,
lowering that level. So now for the drinking water, if that guideline does actually go into practice, but we have a lot of customers who are already taking on the draft guidance and doing that.
Yeah,
that's a lot lower. So you do have to be conscious of sampling.
All right, let's go back to something nice. So, okay, on the podcast we will have more PFAS guests on. We need to discuss this subject.
We haven't really delved into it too much, have we, Gunnar?
No, not at all. It's and it's an important one because ultimately there's a lot of research still ongoing. But should we take it too easy? Should we be harsh? It's a tough one because had we taken asbestos seriously earlier, a lot of hardship would have been saved. But it's so easy. It's always so easy to talk in hindsight.
So do you mind, Kara, if we just take it back, I guess, to the objectives of your study? And so you said that, what David announced or, what you raised at that seminar was about a survey element of your study. So what was the actual objective, and did it involve kind of people's thoughts or understandings about how these products are meant to be used? Was that part of it?
Yeah, so a big focus of it was on greenwashing. So how, the lack of consumer transparency, when people are buying these products, they think they're doing something good for the environment because they have a little green leafy logo and they think they're biodegradable or compostable, but they actually don't see that there's these hidden PFAS added to the plates. And also a lot of people didn't even know what they were when we were doing this project. Yeah, it's just the issue of greenwashing. We identified a lot of knowledge gaps in literature, basically on how these plates may potentially lead to PFAS contamination in industrial compost or landfill. So, the objectives were to basically investigate how it might leach PFAS into compost and basically assess the safety of these plates in landfill or composting systems.
So this all came about when I had Christmas for my family and I went and bought all these sugarcane plates. And at the end of the day, I just chucked them all into my compost bin because I thought, they're sugarcane plates. Because this particular company, makes out that they're very green and whatnot, ethically sourced. And I just figured as well I was helping the Aussie sugarcane farmers by taking their mulch. But unbeknownst to me, these were all imported.
I have no major drama. They are out of sugarcane and they're quite nice. But it should say, do not compost, please. I mean, that's...
Yeah. Well, it does. It does. You have to delve into their website to see.
No. Warning label on the warning label on the package,
next
please.
Mm-hmm.
to the green leaf would be a good place to have a warning label.
Yeah.
And the issue is that even if they are put in landfill, I don't think they're very good in landfill either because they're breaking down, which means they're more likely to leach these contaminants in leachate.
Absolutely.
It's a really interesting one. I'd be really keen to talk about greenwashing on a future episode, dedicate an episode to it, because I know the ACCC has done heaps of work on that recently. And it's really important because, as we all know, when it comes to sort of competition out there in the marketplace, there's a assumption that there's kind of perfect knowledge or perfect information. And it's always so far from that. This is a real issue around greenwashing because take plastic plates, for example, Gunnar. I know there's a lot of heat on plastic at the moment and it's for the right reason, but it will be very interesting to see that kind of objective comparison between a plastic plate disposed of properly in a landfill versus a sugarcane PFAS-coated plate and sort of what the pros and cons of both are. Because, issues with plastics are very much around microplastics and release into the environment and that sort of thing. And it's it'd be interesting to compare different disposal scenarios and see kind of which one had a bigger impact. I just think it's a bit more complex than we often think about, isn't it?
Exactly. And for the consumer as well, you're not going to want to buy a takeaway in a container which just leaks through the container.
Yeah. Well, it comes back to function. I remember a long time ago when we started looking at kind of alternative products, sort of green alternative products, the number one thing was always like the product has to perform to the same standard, if not better, than its competitor. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how good its green credentials are. It just will never succeed. So yeah, there's a need for that to be solved, but obviously, the PFAS coding is not the way to go about it.
No, exactly. But it's not just sugarcane plates we're finding it in. We've done a lot of work on cosmetics as well. I was quite surprised at some of those results. Like eye pencils, for example. Trying to read the ingredients list on a pencil is very difficult. When you're getting, that's a tiny little writing to try and see a little F on there. But, in an eye pencil, we found about 500 parts per billion PFAS. And then when we applied the TOPA to it, we're getting up to 1,500 parts per billion. So obviously this is the same in makeup as well. So obviously, a lot of makeup is going on and then it's getting washed off in the shower at night, which is just all ending up in the biosolids.
I was thinking of the impact through dermal absorption or through your eyes.
I guess it's both, isn't it?
Yeah, so I've had that question a few times about dermal absorption, and I don't know the answer to it. These fluorinated compounds are put into cosmetics to make them look shiny and to stop your eye tears from washing them away and whatnot. They're there for a reason. I don't know about the dermal. I was more concentrating on what's ending up in our biosolids because, biosolids are a very important resource for our country.
All right. Talk about it a little bit. I may edit it out if it gets too gross.
We should. Biosolids are good.
Before you start talking poo, Cara, have you done any leachate tests?
We didn't.
No, we didn't. But we still have all the compost. Cara's actually still keeping that experiment going. We're feeding more plates into the compost bins. So, yes, thank you, Gunnar. We probably should do maybe like a TCLP and an ASLP. And that's a good idea.
So, Cara, your research is ongoing. I mean, what's next for you there in terms of this experiment or any future work you'd be looking at?
Well, we were actually thinking of, after this experiment, actually growing some vegetables on the soil to see if the vegetables take up any of the PFAS compounds from it.
Yeah, great idea.
And then testing the soil at the end to see how much is left over after growing the veggies. But we haven't really thought about the nits and grits of that yet.
Yeah, trying to work out. You will probably need to do some research and see, well, Cara will, see what vegetables might take them up the most. And
are you looking at that from a kind of a bioremediation perspective or more of like an ingestion through those vegetables or both?
Definitely bioremediation potential.
Yeah, cool.
Nature-based solutions always the best, in my opinion. But yeah, we actually also did grow mushrooms on these plates. We haven't talked about that yet. What I did was I just ripped up the plates and I've used that as a substrate. And then I got some oyster mushroom spawn and I put them on the plates and watched them grow. And then we tested the mushrooms to see if it took up anything. And it did take up 41 ppb of, 5,3 FTC?
Yeah, one of the fluorotelmers.
Yeah, fluorotelmer carboxylic acid. So that was very interesting.
I have never heard of that, so just to make our listeners feel better. Okay.
Again, it'll be one of those ones that isn't regulated.
Yeah.
No one ever cares about.
And in terms of why they're not regulated, again, is it just because the science just isn't there as to what the effects of that particular compound are?
I'd guess that. I don't know the answer to that, but yeah, I'm just assuming that all the research is focused on the common ones we all know, and no one's looked at these other ones. Which, looking at that sugarcane plate, maybe people should be looking at these other ones.
We haven't talked about the worms either. So we had a little worm bin at our lab already. What we did is we tested that soil, of course, at the start, and then we added the plates and the worms together. The worms ate the plates, and then we tested the worms after a few weeks of them being in there. We tested the worms at the start and they didn't have any detectable PFAS in them. And then after a few weeks, they'd increased to about 22 ppb pre-TOPA and then 53 ppb post-TOPA. So that was just 3 weeks. Interestingly, when we tested the soil that we put the worms in, at the start, it had 20 ppb of PFOS in it already. And we're not sure where that had come from. It was very old soil, so it's probably been around for a number of years. Yeah, we can't say that the plates are what fully contributed.
Yeah, probably a bit more work needs to be done on the worm study.
What was really interesting is that the 20 ppb of PFOS had actually decreased. We've watched it decrease over the past 20 weeks or so. Usually the worms are actually taking it up.
Yes. So could earthworms be a remediation tool?
So hang on, they disappeared. So they didn't just make it into the worms.
Well, yeah. So the PFAS from the soil was making it the worms because the worms were increasing their concentration, but the soil was decreasing. So we found that quite interesting.
Yeah.
It's being taken up into the body of the worms.
Yeah, but again, with a subsample of 1, this is not rocket science. Where we would need to do a lot more work on this.
It would be interesting to see if that keeps going up in the worms, up and up and up, or if for some magic process they manage to break that down so that it actually vanishes into some other substances.
But then this also comes back to, if you're composting at home, these plates in real life, and, you've got chooks, for example, who are, eating the worms and, and then you're eating the eggs, it's just all a vicious circle, isn't it?
Yeah. You've read the study that was done with the eggs from homegrown chooks in the inner city, in inner west?
Yes.
Where we have all the boiler ash and lead contamination that's kicking around in that area.
Yeah.
And the homegrown eggs had these insane levels of lead in them because the chooks were picking around in the lead contaminated soil in the backyard.
Yeah, exactly. And same with PFAS, Gunnar. There's a study done in South Australia for the fire brigade. A lot of the fireys were eating the chicken eggs from the back of the fire station, and this is where their exposure was coming from the chicken eggs. So chicken eggs are a really good tool to monitor all of this stuff.
Gosh. Okay. Cara, what's next? So you have grown mushrooms legally?
Yes, the legal ones.
There's something you could do at your Christmas party. Never mind. So the mushrooms, you have looked into the worms. What other ideas are around, and are you thinking of publishing what you have done?
I haven't really thought that far yet. I did write a report for it for uni, but as far as publishing it, I'm not too sure about that.
I'd say we'd need to do a lot more work before it could be published. Like this was an A+ uni assignment. We'd need a bit more data to have it peer reviewed, published.
Look, I'm not talking Nature here. I'm talking, but it's an interesting study.
Yeah, it is.
Just as much as Anna Sarah's investigation into the bonded asbestos, and when you use a lawnmower and go over it, it's not something that Nature will or the A-list publications will jump on, but it's something that needs to be out there that people need to know.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe she can write something up for the the Alga magazine or something like that. It'd be absolutely perfect for that.
Give an Alga talk.
Yeah,
they would love to have you there.
Yes, exactly. And actually, I'm covering a little bit of this on this coming Thursday when I'm giving a talk in Tamworth at the Water Industry Operators Association on part of Cara's experiment and also our experience with biosolids. So I know you love that word, Gunnar.
So you're taking credit for Cara's work. Good on you, David.
No.
Cara actually got a little credit at the Patel conference this year in Denver. So, which was fantastic. So Pete Murphy from the foam fractionation OPEC people used a couple of Kara's composting slides in his talk at Battelle and gave her a little rap. So that was very impressive.
Impressive indeed.
Well, that's awesome. And these little bits and pieces are really important. And Kara, definitely encourage you to get out there or continue talking about it and potentially publish something even in like the grey literature, because I guess on that point, it's like, I think if we wait for the peer-reviewed science, sometimes something that's fast-moving and complicated like this can sometimes get a bit bogged down in that sort of that peer-reviewed science process. I mean, it's important that the data is robust, but it doesn't mean that we can't have these little bits and pieces contributing to the discussion at a higher pace, I guess. And sorry, Kari, so you're still studying now, or have you moved into industry, or what are your plans now?
I've just graduated recently, and I've also just taken up a new role at EnviroLab as the business development representative.
Fantastic.
So David's boss now. I'll report to David.
I'm a nice boss.
Yeah.
I was going to say, David would be a top boss, I'm sure.
How about Jeremy? Is he trying to get in there too?
He's not too bad.
He's entertaining.
And so will you continue researching on the side, Kara, or sort of that's it for now?
Yeah, I'd really like to. I mean, I'm so interested in all these, all this PFAS stuff. It's just very fascinating to me, and it's a hot topic at the moment as well. So, yeah, I'd really like to keep it going.
I mean, you're in the place to do it.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many. I've often said that I could just retire and just do these little experiments that I think and that could be my life, just doing all these crazy little experiments. So now Kara can take over.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons why not, I can tell you firsthand, one of the reasons why not more research is done in these small little areas are lab costs.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's year 12 chemistry boy that we did the debunking of the WA guideline. That I just donated $10,000 in analysis to him.
Unreal.
The joys of having your own lab.
Yeah.
Just don't tell him.
But and that's very generous of EnviroLab and you and the team to do that, because I mean that is a big deal, and I mean it's great that you're able to invest that as well, Dave, because I feel that tension you're talking about there, which is like I'm the same. I would love to just do R&D and kind of thought projects and stuff, and that's great, but it's like it's tough because you got the commercial reality of running the business as well. But want to congratulate you guys for being so generous with that funding, because I'm sure that was only one of many that you would have done.
Yeah, it is. And we're doing another one at the moment, just helping out a community group who have some pollution issues in their regional area. So it's, it's
great.
It's now sort of giving back to some of these organisations that have no money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I mean, of the thousands of samples you run every day, a couple of more PFASs.
Exactly. PFAS here and there.
Yeah.
Easy done.
Excellent. Well, thanks, guys, for your time. And sorry I was late.
That's all right. No problem. Your results will never be late, but you can be late.
No, it was awesome. Thank you, Kara. I really appreciate it. I know this isn't easy for you to come on to something like this. And
so definitely new to me, but thank you for having us.
You did really well.
My fourth podcast now.
Yeah, I know you are an old radio star, and
we got to get you back on as a regular. I think, David, you got a few other things that we need to have a chin wag about.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. We'll see you at the Christmas party.
Well, thank you. Now that I'm invited this year.
Okay, see you guys.
See you.
Bye, see you.
Thanks, Kara. Thanks, David. Bye.